Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 21 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download from that page a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through the worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. If you have any of those to share with us, please do so. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@yagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment from you, we'll address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred, so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or input. If you have the wherewithal to join us live, we're on Zoom most weekdays from 11 a.m. Central till noon. And then Michael and Jeannie come on from noon until 1 Central. But for the first hour, the meeting ID number for Zoom is 853-2357-4173. That's 853-2357-4173. And you can either call one of the many numbers that Zoom offers and just add that meeting ID number, or you can open up a browser window and join us live through Zoom and type in the chat room or speak up or just listen. And we're greatly appreciative whenever anybody chooses to do that, because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be of service, and that's just so much easier to do when we get feedback from people about how these things are landing for them. So, yesterday, I got a little bit sidetracked. I'd been over the weekend to see Liz Gilbert, and there was a chapter in her book that I felt compelled to share yesterday about the systemic imbalance in workload from male to female in our culture, and the overgiving that happens on a regular basis, and it gets programmed into us, and sometimes often begins to feel like a survival mechanism. So what I had originally intended to do before I got sidetracked with that was to share some of the worksheets that I did as a result of getting triggered last week when I was talking about basically reading from The Way of Mastery. I did about 12 worksheets on this, and I'm only able to recover 2. A number of them, when I did the goal canceling and asked to be shown the hidden part of my mind, I just got more calm and I went blank. I didn't even have any series of images flashing through my head and no insights and no flashes back to an earlier time in my life where trauma might have been a part of the issue. But what I was aware of was a mix of emotions. So what happened was I was reading from The Way of Mastery about right there in the first lesson where it says, this is a pathway of learning to get rid of, to dismantle, to put aside every urge, every hope, every passion or obsession to be seen as special or to feel as though you've accomplished something towards the goal of earning your way into heaven or earning approval or whatever. And the point they're trying to make is that all of that is based in false perception. All of that is based in a very limited view. All of that is based on just the input of the 5 senses and our history, what we call our past. So it's not true, it's not accurate, it's not living. And over again in these deeper spiritual teachings, they call us to wake up to the fact that our true nature is whole and complete just as it is. In fact, there's nothing of value that can be added unto you and nothing of value that can be taken, a true value that can be taken from you. Yes, things can come and go in the physical realm, but the point of these teachings is there's a lot more going on here than just what our senses alert us to from the physical realm. So I'm not sure exactly where these worksheets fell in terms of the series that I had done, but they capture a couple different aspects of what happened. I think the first 1 or 2 I did, I just felt blank. And then this might have been the 3rd or 4th one where I said, I, Tim, who am love, am feeling, and then I just put the word tears instead of an emotion since I had so many different emotions flowing at the time. And then I wrote, what happened was I was reading from The Way of Mastery on dropping being special, dropping any sense of wanting to be special. And the thought I was using to create this was simply focusing on wanting others to understand and receive the benefits. And the goal I chose was for people to understand, I'm sorry, for myself to understand my tears and the emotions behind them. And then when I did the release and read the forgiveness pattern, which is available on the mindshiftersacademy.org website on the educational materials page, and just read through that a few times, just recited it a few times, I felt quite calm and I was clear about one of the aspects of the emotions I was feeling. And that was that I felt this clear, deep satisfaction and joy because I'm understanding the value of this teaching at deeper levels. So one of the worksheets as a result of the worksheet, you might say, was I was left feeling this awareness of a calm in my physical body and this deep joy and satisfaction with the thought that I'm actually understanding these teachings at a deeper level. And I did quite a few more around that and around different aspects of what I was talking about leading up to reading from the Way of Mastery. And one of them resulted in sadness. I don't have that one here, but I agreed to do a worksheet on the sadness that came up at the end of another worksheet. And so I put, I, Tim, who I'm love, am feeling the emotion of sadness. And what I wrote was, I'm realizing at deeper levels that I need to give up hope of being special. And the thought I'm using to create the sadness is, I will be failing if I give up trying to be special. And I knew I was on the right track there because I had some more tears coming up. And so the goal I chose in that worksheet was simply to succeed at being special. And when I canceled that thought and the goal and went through the what I call the forgiveness pattern and did the meditation, um, I flashed on some memories that I've had for years, decades now. When I was little, I had um, I had an experience that when I would go to sleep at night, that on the one hand, some part of me was always looking forward to that time of night. And on the other hand, another part of me was terrified. And the image um, is more of a sensation than an image. But if I had to, over the years, as I've tried to describe the image, it's like if there's a full 1 or 2 acre um, quilted, puffy quilt, big, thick, puffy quilt. It's just expansive, an acre or two. And I'm this tiny little kid tucked in and peering over the top of this big, big, fluffy quilt. And I'm peering over the top because there are people at the foot of the bed. There's, spirits, ghosts, entities, guides, whatever you want to call them. And eventually, what probably happened was that I would talk to my father about things like that, and it would just freak him out. And if he didn't physically recoil, psychically he recoiled. Emotionally, he would recoil. And so, as best we can determine with all the work I've done over the years in various therapies and digging into this, what happened was I realized that if I wanted to maintain a connection with my father, which was about physical safety and survival, I would have to give up this connection to and talking about these visitors at night. And I'm fairly certain that one of them was my dad's dad, who I'd never met and never seen any pictures of, but energetically, that's the impression that keeps coming through the more I dig into this work. So what I saw was this memory of all of these times the nighttime visitors would come and how much how excited I was about going to sleep each night because I'd be able to see them and connect with them again, and how all of a sudden that went from this joyful excitement thing to this fearful thing because I'm rejecting them, and then eventually they're not there. But that I still had the connection to my dad, so I was trading off my emotional sensitivity, my energetic sensitivity, my insight into it, my connection to those guides, whatever. I was sacrificing that to be able to stay connected, energetically, intellectually, emotionally, physically to my dad. And so, what I've been back there with that set of memories and that set of downloads or trauma energies many times. And so the goal I set at the end of that worksheet was to do a session of EFT tapping. And so I just did tapping because I was down to a level 2 upset at the end of that. The sadness was fading, and I recognized that, yep, years ago when I first tapped into this, it was a very tearful, very upsetting, very high energy moving kind of set of memories. But I've worked on it so much that these days it doesn't usually go that deep. It usually starts to fade away as soon as I recognize, oh, this is another layer about that dynamic. And so with a tapping session that I did after that, I just went down to a 0 and stayed there. And that was one of the last worksheets I did around that set of issues, because the flow of energy that we were trying to label as emotion that was giving rise to those tears went off in so many different directions. It went into the joy and deep satisfaction. It went into fear. It went into sadness. It went into hurt. And all of those played out over the course of about 15 to 20 worksheets. So that's the report on what happened the last time I was reading from The Way of Mastery and tears came to me. So that's that update. Thoughts, comments, questions? I've got lots of different little irons in the fire, but I think what I'll do at this stage of the game, if nobody's going to ask questions, is just mention that so far I'm thoroughly enjoying the book Fawning by Dr. Clayton, Ingrid Clayton. And if you or somebody you know has had trauma and might have some strange response patterns in relationships that they don't understand, it might be worth listening to or reading her book. Because as a bright person who's been through complex trauma or relational trauma and is looking for answers, with all the study she's done, it's a very nice set of talking points and perspectives to look at, and a way to understand the dynamics that unfold after trauma without pathologizing the person, without telling the person that they're sick or they're crazy or they're broken in any way. And just the whole idea of understanding the genius of our adaptive coping mechanisms. And of course, we rarely get to look at them as genius because we evaluate them from the adult perspective long after the fact. Whereas, just think about how many times you've seen a 2 or 3-year-old do something that you say, wow, look at that. They did that almost like an adult. And it's just amazing. I mean, but if the adult does that, like takes the cap off a bottle or figures out how to get a key off a ring, we don't think anything of it. But we understand if we're watching a 2 or 3-year-old, we're understanding how little they know about the world and how little their actual personal sense of agency is, because they're just so vulnerable and reliant upon their parents for survival. And to have a coping mechanism that effective and that complex come out of them at 2, 3, 5, 8, 12 years old is brilliant, even if that coping mechanism isn't appropriate for an adult, or or an adult can see, well, you know what, there's a lot of negative baggage attached to that coping mechanism. Maybe we could try something else. The point is, the younger version of that adult didn't have access to these other resources. So I've been holding this to get back to lesson 4 in The Way of Mastery, because we're something about our conversation led us to the discussion of the Way of Mastery's definition for the word desire. And my summary of it is that instead of obsession or compulsion or passion or craving, what the Way of Mastery wants to do is redefine desire as this energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through me or uniquely through you in any given moment. So it's not the targets of our desire. It's not the things that we crave. It's not the things that we find ourselves obsessing over. It's the energy that carries that thought and images or impressions into my field of awareness. So I'm going to back up and read the last page that we read before, because it starts with the title, Releasing Judgment of Desire. And the Way of Mastery understands that we've all been conditioned to think of desire as bad. You know, the alcoholic desires another drink, the gambler another bet, the sex addict another episode of intimacy, etc., another orgasm. So a spiritual person shouldn't desire sex, or shouldn't desire wealth, or shouldn't desire a comfortable bed, etc. Desire being bad in a lot of different teachings and cultural dynamics. So the text here reads, learn then through simple practice to interpret the patterns you've learned from this illusory world, so that you release judgment of the energy of desire. This will be different for each and every one of you, depending upon where you begin. Here's a simple exercise. When you wake up in the morning and you've planted your feet firmly on the floor, pause and ask yourself, what do I want right now? And right away, your mind will say, well, I'm too busy to know what I want. I've got to go to work. I've got to serve everybody else. I'm here to satisfy the world. I've got no time to ask myself, what do I want? Especially if you're a female in this culture, especially if you're a female in a relationship and or with children. So the text goes on here and it reads, remember that whatever you decree is, and the thought you hold in the mind will be reflected throughout the nature of your experience. So if you tell yourself, I don't have time for this, you actually won't make the time for it. It won't happen. So the Way of Mastery is prodding us, nudging us, saying, okay, so take pause and ask, what do I want? Declare that you do have the time to slow down and ask, that you do have the right to explore what desire is trying to help you learn to express. What do I want? And then simply give yourself 1 minute to observe whatever comes up in the mind or even is felt in the body. Heaven forbid you might want to have sex. Oh, well, then you would know for sure that you're not a spiritual being. You might want to take a hot shower. You might want a glass of juice or water. You might want to sing. You might want to stretch or breathe. You might want to turn and look at your lover or mate sleeping in the bed. You might want to arise and sneak into your children's room and watch them sleep. You might want to sit down and read the morning paper. The point here is to notice that by asking the question, something will respond within you. And when that response comes, notice that there's a feeling associated with it, a quality that makes your cells sting just a little bit. That is the energy, the elixir of life we're calling desire. In this 1 minute, you will not need to act, but to simply observe. Ah, what do I want? To take a hot shower? I don't know. The feeling or the thought that emanates the feeling that is moving through the body is this energy. And the thought comes to you, I want to take a hot shower. It's carried on the energy of desire, the elixir of desire, the life force, the creative energy itself, that this aspect of which we're calling desire. Desire is coming in from a depth of your being that, once again, we want to remind you, it rests right near the face of God. Might it not be the case that by following the desire that wells up through your heart, by feeling it, by embracing it, by trusting it, you might learn and discover what the ocean is wishing to express through the wave that you are? If you judge desire, might you not be shutting off the very creative flow that the mind of the creator wishes to express? Of course, that is the problem. You have tied a knot through the conflicted judgments. Here's a very common one in your world. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you felt the desire to be wealthy? It's not something you're supposed to sit around and talk about or make very public, especially if you're trying to be, quote, spiritual, close quotes. You may have thought, I woke up this morning and I just imagined having so many golden coins that I could buy the entire planet. And then you remembered, uh-oh, money is the root of all evil. I can't think that way. Well, I better get busy and get off to the office job that I secretly inside resent because they don't pay me what my soul is worth. But I'll pretend I'm quite fine. Oh, money? No, I'm quite fine, really. I have plenty, thank you. No, I'm fine. And then as you drive home, a Mercedes pulls up alongside you, and you cannot help but turn and say, God, I wish I could have one of those. And then instantly you think, oh God, I can't have that thought. So I'll just drive my little Volkswagen beat up old car down the road. I'm being a very good spiritual person, though. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you felt welling up within you the desire to be wealthy? What on earth has caused you to fear that desire? What has caused you to tie the hose in a knot so that you try to block that very desire from coming into manifestation? Perhaps when you were a child, you went to one of your cathedrals, and there was someone in a long robe standing up on a platform, and because everything looked so beautiful, you thought, well, surely, whatever they say, they must be speaking with authority and the truth. And since this cathedral was filled with a whole lot of small minds that were all living their own level of fear, and they're all saying money is the root of all evil, well, then you thought, oh, well, that's the truth. Yep, that must be it. That's the truth. Oh, God, I better fear money. I say unto you, you have one authority, and it is never held in the office of any church or any organization or any one individual. Your authority is the voice for God that dwells within your heart and within your mind. God is not limited. God does not require its children to be limited, for if you would receive all that the Creator would give you, you must decide to rise up and be the grandest wave that you could possibly be. For only in so doing do you honor your Creator. You could say that the Creator is like a wise gardener who's trying to grow beautiful roses. She knows exactly how much moisture to put in the soil. She knows how to make those nutrients rise from the soil through the roots, up through the heart of the stem to the flower to give forth radiant color so that everyone that looks upon it is touched by the mystery of beauty. And the creator wonders, well, it is interesting. These roses that I've created, they seem to have a mind of their own. As the elixir I tried to give them rises through the stems, they tie themselves in little knots, and only a little bit of the elixir comes out. So the petals never quite blossom fully. Have you ever had the feeling that you're putting more energy into staying constricted than you are into allowing expansion? You know, expansion, as soon as I said the word expansion, the word learning came into my head at the same moment. Every time we learn something, you've heard that thing about how when a mind stretches, it never goes back to its original shape or smaller. Every time we learn something, we expand. And it's not a coincidence that in every worksheet process, we cancel our need to be right and ask to be shown something that we can't see with our conscious logical mind. We're asking to be taught, we're asking to be expanded, we're asking to be completed. So we're halfway through our first hour today. Thoughts, comments, answers, questions,
I had
soliloquies?
one.
Go ahead.
This business of being special and addiction and desire, you're talking about a healthy person when you're talking about somebody who you're assuming that the desires that we have are healthy. I've been fussing with addiction, as you know, and you've been reading from a person who she's been, some of her talks, Elizabeth Gilbert's talks have been chopped up. I mean, the long talk with Oprah, for instance, little excerpts, really good for short takes on one question. And I've been listening to those. And the more I listen, the more I realize, yes, I'm an addict, and I'm not like her in so many ways. And then I ask myself, am I just trying to wiggle out of getting a hold of myself and controlling things and getting well? Or, am I making excuses and going through all this stuff? And I try to sink way down into that area of healthy desire that you're talking about, right near the face of God. I don't know if I've ever really, no, that's not true. Most things, probably we feel desire, we do things, we don't even call them desire, we don't even think about it. But anyway, I'm hovering around the difference between an unhealthy desire, which probably isn't desire at all. What are other words for things that could be mistaken for desire, like compulsion?
Well, but let's just slow down and come back to this particular chapter, and they're trying to help us completely redefine the word desire. So you're talking about unhealthy desires. You've just created um, a misnomer, right? Or an impossibility. Because desire, the way they're defining it, is simply the energy of creation, this life force that wants to express uniquely through you in each moment. And what you're talking about is the external focus that you choose to act on or toward when that energy moves through you. So the energy of desire is the stuff that keeps your body functioning. It's the stuff that motivates you to do anything. It's like what Michael Rice talks about in his lecture, Getting the Stress You Need. a human being doesn't do anything unless they want something to be different than it is,
Mm,
right? And so they set a goal to have something be different, and then their mind teaches them or shows them what they need to do to make the thing turn out differently.
hmm.
Well, it's the same kind of energy,
Yeah.
right? That fundamental energy like gravity or like the wind, it's like an elemental force. This is what they're trying to convey. They don't use the phrase, but literally when they talk about desire in lesson 4, it fits the definition that Michael Rice has for an elemental force. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
And so an elemental force like gravity isn't good or bad, right or wrong.
Right.
So when you say these desires you have that aren't healthy, or that's, what you're talking about is not the energy of desire. You're talking about the target a person chooses for it. And often, as they talk about earlier in the chapter, my ego can hijack that energy and
Hmm.
start creating all kinds of rationalizations why it's okay for me to go shoot somebody or slap somebody or hate somebody or
Hmm. So another wrinkle in all this is you started out talking about being special, and that's an amazing story about it's a very vivid picture of this tiny boy with his nose above the cover on one end of an enormous quilt and all these characters showing up, and you have a relationship with these characters, and it's talk about a desire, but you somewhere in there, because you had your father on the scene, you wanted to be special. And of
well,
course,
well,
yeah,
here's the deal that I felt very special in the connection with these nighttime visitors.
right, okay. But that was a good thing, right?
I don't know, good or bad, right or wrong, that's what it was.
Okay.
And I had a very strong affinity for or affection for that time of the night. I would look
Mm-hmm.
forward to go, and then eventually I started dreading it and looking forward to it. It was equal parts excitement and terror. And then eventually I just, I said, I can't do this anymore. I either
Is
got
that
so
because of your
afraid of it.
father?
Well, I'm just guessing that what happened. I mean, this
Oh,
happened when I was
yeah,
somewhere between 3 to 5 years old, right?
yeah.
So
Mm,
I'm just guessing on all of the various worksheets and EFT tapping sessions and the neuroemotional technique where we do the muscle testing to track down where the energy flows. And I've done that for, you know, over a couple decades now.
mm,
And specifically going back to that kind of thing, because that's where a lot of the core decision was made by me at some level to shut off my insider intuition and to align myself with that stuff that seemed so um, essential to connect with my dad, which was just logic,
mm,
engineering, mechanical engineering type logic.
mm.
So that's just a guess, right? But
Mm.
again, when I did this worksheet, that's what I flashed back to. Because gradually, the more I've done this work over the past 50 years of doing therapy with other people and having therapy done to me, I mean, probably I'm probably only 45 years into the experience of having some form of therapy done on me, or
Mm-hmm.
doing worksheets or having NET or being the subject of a family constellations piece or whatever. That's just been, lots and lots and lots of those over the years. Practically every time I took any kind of a therapy training, at some point in the training, they say, okay, you get to be the therapist and you get to be the patient. So
Mm.
you get to have the experience, hopefully, that, you know, some shared felt sense of, hey, this has power to it in any technique that you bring back into your therapy office. That's the hope anyway. And so through all of that, I know there's that developmental, decision that was made to distance myself from my insight and intuition and
Did you find
inspiration.
your, sorry to
Did
interrupt.
I find what?
Did you find that you became scared of the beings themselves because you thought since your dad didn't
I don't,
accept?
I don't, I don't think I was ever fearful of the beings.
Oh, okay.
I think I was sad to have decided that I had to not keep visiting with them or,
Okay.
not talk to them or hide from
Mm,
them under the covers or whatever.
mm-hmm,
That's more how I experienced it, that it was a sad thing.
mm.
What was your guess about that?
I didn't know. It seemed pretty powerful when you were talking about you became eager to get to bed and also scared to get to bed. And I wondered if it was the critters, the beings who were beginning to present something a little dark or whether
No,
it,
no, I don't
yeah.
have any recollection or feeling like that. It was just that, you know, if I had a great time with them and mentioned it to my dad, I probably just sent him running for the hills.
Did you think he might think you were mentally off or
Well,
something?
I was too young to have words for that or thoughts like that. I could just feel him pull away.
Yeah.
My best guess is that, he may not even have physically pulled away, but energetically, emotionally, he would have been like, what the hell do I do with this talk? This kid is talking to me about my dad and or perhaps telling him things about his dad that I shouldn't have any way to know. And probably just freaked him out, as so many parents have been freaked out when their kids are seeing ghosts or having a real high intuition and reading, essentially like reading people's minds, etc.
Mm. You say you didn't know his father, your dad's dad, right?
No, my dad didn't even really know his dad. His dad died
Oh,
when he was 6 years old.
oh, that's right. You said that. Mm. Well, oh, anyway, I'm taking us on a tangent. I'm just curious about so many things about your dad and his dad, but this is a radio show, so carry on.
Carry on, carry over, carry Grant, carry
Mm,
forward.
mm,
They did that in the MASH TV show. They listed all the different carries.
uh, uh,
Okay, so you keep using a phrase like a desire or the desire. And I just
mhm.
want to highlight that's a misspeaking based on what we're trying to
Yeah,
communicate here.
I understand. And you have explained that before, and I get the second layer and start to fuss with it. I understand what you mean about that initial
Okay, there is no such
pure,
thing as a desire
right? It's the
based on this
initial pure,
definition.
right? It's the impetus. It's the whatever it
Try to
is.
get this down. It's the energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through you in any given moment. It's your life force. It's another word for this is life force. Another way to
That's a
talk
good word.
about it is an elemental force specific to humans that's connected to their creative impulse. An elemental force specific to humans connected to their creative impulse. Maybe it's easier to think about it that way, but then you're not thinking about the target you might focus that energy on.
Right, right. Mm,
I don't have a desire for something. The way this teaching would talk to us about that energy of desire, it's an elemental force. It's not a specific thing. It's not something that anyone possesses. It's a creative energy that moves through us as humans. Making
mm.
sense?
Yeah, it manifests though in the wish to get a shower or something. So the
Well,
evidence.
yes, we can use it and choose a target for it and then generate goals and act towards those targets. Yes. But those are the targets that I'm choosing to focus this energy on,
So
the energy of desire.
If we were quiet enough, we would feel that force without any object.
There you go. That's what they're trying to get us to pay attention to.
Okay.
Because it's always there. And if you're willing to take on the assignment of practicing these exercises, you probably will get to feel that energy. The text here goes on, and the next section is titled, Desire Links You to the Will of God, or the Will of the Creator. And the text reads, Desire is creation, period. So just imagine that you won't hear me read the words from this book as the following quote. The energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through you in each moment, close quote. You won't find that anywhere in this book. But imagine that I've been through the book, 30, 50, 100 times, I have no idea. And eventually that phrasing comes out and you catch little pieces of it here. Desire is creation. It's a 3-word sentence with a period on it. So desire is this energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through you in each moment. Then it says, therefore, what you desire is of supreme importance. If you'll take this little exercise that we've given you and begin to put it into practice upon awakening in the morning in a very simple and quiet way, you will begin to get back in touch with the innocence and beauty and movement of desire. You can delight in it. And you'll be able to, as they say, oh, they've already said it and I'll say it again, you'll be able to feel these energies and decide which ones you want to act on. You're not going to get buffeted around by desire, this energy of creation, the way you are buffeted around by your cravings and obsessions and addictions, etc.
So you're saying that that energy of creation will be good.
It is just there. It's like gravity or fire or the heat of the sun. It's just there. Remember what Rumi invited us to. Out beyond definitions of good and bad, right and wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. This is what they're talking about.
Oh,
That
do that
level.
again.
Pardon me?
Yes, say that again. The Rumi thing.
Out beyond judgments of good and bad, right or wrong, there's a field. I'll meet you there. This is back at the Garden of Eden, before people started judging themselves as being wrong for being naked, or for eating the apple, or for disobeying their creator, etc. It's not the action they did that created the separation between them and the experience of being in heaven. It's the judgment that they began to do and have never stopped.
That is the most gorgeous visual, that Rumi thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think Rumi was pretty tapped in. But it says here, if you'll take that little exercise and put it into practice, you will start to reconnect with the innocence and beauty of this movement of this energy they're calling desire, and you'll delight in it. The next paragraph reads, when you have a sexual thought, a sexual desire, why not just be with it? Why not notice what it causes to happen in the body? How does your breath change? Does the heart beat faster? Be honest with yourself. Isn't it putting a smile on your face? What if you decided to honestly embrace the effect, whatever the effect is, as being perfectly innocent and beautiful? How might your day change if you did not repress awareness of sexual desire? Boy, that's a big, powerful, loaded statement. And the word that is so important there is the awareness word. So we're not saying don't repress your sexual desires. Go on out and grab people and do whatever you want with them. That's not the message here. The message here is being aware of how you've been trained to judge or be afraid of certain targets for your desire, for the energy of desire flowing through you. And again, what these exercises help us demonstrate to ourselves is we can tune into and become vividly aware of this energy of desire moving through us and just enjoy it, not feel like we have to act on it, not feel like, uh-oh, this is the creator sending me a mission. If I don't do it, I'm going to fail. There's no failing in this. There's just life expressing and flowing. And yeah, there are consequences as life expresses and flows, but there's no value in judging one as good and the other as bad. And as this teaching would bring to us, tying ourselves in knots, essentially, tying ourselves up so we can't express this energy of creation.
I can't imagine getting to the point where some kind of clamp isn't going to be placed on a desire.
Some
It
kind of what?
clamp, CLAMP.
Okay.
The kind of freedom he's talking about is amazing. Total permission to just be who you are. Well, anyway, it's just blowing my mind. That's all, Dr. Tim.
Well, and that is so telling that that particular aspect of this would blow your mind. It just indicates what you might say root conditioning, what your developmental conditioning was like. Right? You were raised and you formulated your developmental conditioning because you were raised by people who never felt comfortable in their own skin. They were never taught that who and what they are is perfectly okay just the way they are.
Don't you think that's true in our whole culture, though? I wasn't thinking it was just me. Maybe it is, but
No, it is not just you,
yeah.
but yours was a special, intense case.
Mm.
Remember how we've talked about it, that some people were raised in families where they were never hit in anger and they were basically um, they had a crock pot experience, and all that was in the crock pot was, 99.9% loving, nurturing, physical affection and, nice, healthy boundaries. And there are people like that out there.
Mm,
who won the lottery, so to speak,
yeah.
with the qualities that their parents had and had to offer and what their personal needs were as they
Mm,
were developing. And so that's just a very different experience. And I'm absolutely certain that there are some people, not a lot, but there are some people who would read this and say, "Oh, that yeah, I could do that. I can identify and then change some of the download beliefs I have around desire. I can continue to do what they prompted me to do in lesson 3 in the way of mastery. And by actively watching for my judgments and then releasing any attachment to them and canceling the goals behind them, I can change my life that way and see how it works."
yeah, you were talking about doing that yourself with, you were talking about judgments, I suppose, of any kind, but how much energy you ended up having when you stopped giving energy to that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's judgments of all kinds.
Mm, whoa. Okay, mind blown.
Yeah, I'm going to leave the reading there for now um, and just sit with that. What if? What if? And I just have to reiterate, I know we've talked about this before, but thinking about this exercise doesn't do it. But actually putting the pen to the paper, getting up in the morning and taking out 5 or 10 minutes to do that exercise, noticing it during the day later on in the way of mastery, they give that to us as an exercise again at different levels. Just asking, what is it I want right now? And waking up and recognizing that in one way or another, very literally and directly or indirectly with emotional issues that are steeped in it, I'm always deciding things that land me wherever I am. So I'm only in the position I'm in wherever I am because I chose to go be there.
Mm,
Now I know there are some people who are in war zones right now and they didn't choose to be in war zones, but even when they're in that bigger context that they didn't choose, they're making choices all day long about where to go and what to do and what to say to who, and that's creating their situation and their experience of life. And we can just get a lot more clear about these more subtle but very powerful energies that are shaping our existence. And I, for one, am glad to become aware of those because, I can't, if I'm not aware of it, I can't even do anything with it. But if I become aware of it and I practice, I can recognize it and I can make different choices on a regular basis that support me and those around me in a loving, compassionate exchange. So today's a Tuesday. I'll remind us that we have a support group available tonight, 6:30 to 9 Central Time. All the information you need is available on the mindshiftersacademy.org website. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love.